The Ring of Dame Thardwine, Book 14. The Ioland falls and becomes Storm's thralls. Strength of men is not in the power of his body, nor his mind, but will alone. There is no strength in the body which does not wither, nor can it be compared to the strength found in animals. No man can compare his power to the bull, whose kick can kill a man. There is no strength of the mind that is impervious to the simple march of the sun, and as the fog of age descends, even the strongest mind cannot remember all the moments it has seen, nor recount perfectly that which has passed. No, there is no strength to be found in these things. Only in his will does man have strength. His soul stands proud and directs both body and mind to do great things. His power to look at his pain, to bear both clouds and rain, and look to the day when the sun will rise. That is his only strength, and for it he was given possession of the earth entire. Svoren Blackfinger's long gazed in wonder at the ring set upon his finger, the ring which was worn by he who had broken him, the ring which the Aeolish thralls spoke of while toiling for him across the bitter sea, the ring which he had learned was chief of all his foes' relics, magic, and power. The other kings looked on in wonder as he reveled over a single ring, when much gold and iron was piled before him, and as he gave all other spoils of battle to the men of his host, Svoren lied to the assembled kings. I have, as you have promised me, the spoils of the churned field. I hold all which the Aeolish brought to this field, and a treasure I cherish. It was mine long ago, a ring given me by a good man, and I lost it here. That is why I am so gleeful to see it again, and for its discovery surrender all other treasure found on the field to my warriors. Let no man doubt my largesse ever again. Yet now that which was promised to you and your men must come to pass. The Aeolish are shattered, they run from here broken, never again to raise their heads. Your rule over them is waiting, go and take it. Leave this place and sack the hall of their dead king. Take his wife for your own, wear his gold, burn it to cinder. Then claim your kingdoms, settle your people in their homes. I will take the last of these lands for my own, as I have promised you. Go now, great kings, complete your conquest. Burn their memory to ash. Take what you can before the others do. I go now to try again to break the walls at the river mouth. Once our kingdoms are set, we will have no more cause for cordial relations. To this the others readily agreed, and left quickly to order their men together, tired though they were, and marched away before the sun had set on that bloody day. Away in the hall which was the object of this march, a runner, one of Sherday's retinue, had come to the very edge of the surrounding homes before collapsing from weariness. He was carried into the hall of the Telach, but he could not stand to address the youth as his legs could not hold him, and he lay panting as he delivered a message of death. The Aeolish were defeated in battle, and the host was coming to bring death upon them and complete their ruin. Then he spoke of the death of Sherday, how she had spoken of a debt repaid before entering battle. These messages delivered, he died and was buried in honor. Forewarned of the storm set to fall upon those he ruled, the youth was not slothful. He ordered that the women and children flee far into the hills, and gold be taken with them and buried deep. Those men who remained would then burn the hall and the homes surrounding, before meeting the coming storm. All this was done without panic, calmed by the lead of the youth. Before the night had passed, all gold and silver, wrought and unwrought, gleaming treasure of their people, was safely taken beyond the Isle Meloch by the women and youths into the blasted lands which once belonged to the people of Helm Hylas, and there buried in safety. The men who remained covered their trail. setting sparks to consume their homes and walking round the great fire in morning procession. Round and round they stamped their feet and led their herds until the earth marked nothing but their passing. Through the night they sang lamentations to the good God, bewailing their fate, as the smoke choked the moon and stars. As the night was dying, the good monk Gregory came to the youth as he walked this circuit around the groaning beams, and spoke to him. Boy, well have you led your people in these dark hours, and have saved many from harm. But some harm must fall, and I am afraid it must fall on us. We who remain in our home must bear this. I think you knew this, which is why we remain here instead of flying to make a stand elsewhere. For I think you know that they will follow us looking for blood. Let us have it here, but they will not have us entire. I have buried beneath the threshold of my church both the holy word of the good God and the story of the Aeolish high kings bound by the ring of Dame Thardwine, as told to me by Ilulian Finowin and Ethelwald, written in my hand, wrapped in cloth. When the storm which Malach foresaw sweeps over us, and you have lifted the yoke from our necks, come back to this place and take them from their hiding. Return them to the people and reclaim this treasure worth more than the gold. The dawn will rise on a world bitter and broken. Pain will come for us, but you are young and can endure. Rest now in this last moment of peace. Remember it. Morning shall have need of your strength. The youth took this advice and lay down to rest beyond the circling feet and his burning home, and as he slept he dreamt. First of beatings, then of blood and scars, of losing again. Slowly the blood falling from his brow filled the earth, but the redness left the pool, becoming clear water, and at the edge of the water stood Ilulian Finowin, golden hair in the water, and she waited for him. Then the dream changed, and before the youth stood a kindly man, his robes brown and his head hairless. He spoke to him in a gentle voice. I am the monk William, born in a land not so far from here, though passing over the sea is still a hardship. The land which I come from is a strange one, where a king rules over very little and must put his faith in the men placed just beneath him, and they also, until every man is accounted for, resting all on the backs of those who have little. I was born to one of these families, and learned quickly the labor placed upon us. I toiled in the sun from the age of 4 until I was 14, and learned to care for living things. Yet suddenly those who stood above us took the land which I had brought to fruit. The many hands that labored there were left without means, and we struggled in the hands of others. I struggled, and I fought, but I found not the strength to return my family their home, and I was a broken man, until I placed myself in the care of the good God, and found there a strength waiting for me. I commended myself wholly to him, and the strength he gave to me won my battles, as my family no longer struggled but lived in comfort. I left that land of sweet comfort, that I would not forget his works in my leisure, instead searching his creation for the true nature of its creator. I came to this isle that I might spend time discovering this, and many years I was permitted to pursue my study, until the wound came to Scarmeline on that dark night. I am called William Seeker, and I remind you that those who seek will always find, for that is the nature of the good God. And when you find that all is lost, remember the Mover is a well of strength and gives freely to those who hold his precepts before them. The youth woke calm, ready for the coming day, and quickly took his place in the circling mourners, leading them round as the cinders died, and wisping smoke curled slowly into the sky. Shortly after dawn came charging into the sky, came the first signs of the approaching host. A great plume of dust rose, and the rhythmic sound of feet was heard, soon joined by the clinking of mail and voices. The Daona found them singing and circling the ruin of their home, and were afraid. Slowly they approached the Aolish, weapons drawn against some sudden treachery, for such is the mind of that people. But becoming convinced that no battle would be joined, the many Daona formed a line across the circle trod into the ground and stopped the mourners there. The Aolish did not resist this, but stood together with their voices still lifted in song. The Daona pressed against them on all sides and locked together their shields, but the Aolish kept singing, even when the Daona shouted and clashed their arms against their shields. Only when the Daona pulled a number from their line and beat them did the singing falter. Then from the Aolish came the good monk Gregory, who in harsh tones chastised the Daona. "Cease now this cruelty. What manner of dog are you to harm peaceful men so? These men here do you no injury. They neither harass nor harry you. They walked about their burning home giving lamentation to their good God, for they now recognize that they are not masters in their home and must now bear indignities. Celebrate your victory not by harming those who have lost. Be men, not beasts. I shall lay these words against you now, mingled with the power the good God has given to me and the ancient knowledge of the land you now rule. He that harms his fellow man will not long rule this land, and will soon lose his life. These words I bind to the Daona who walk over Ioland." The Daona ceased their violence, releasing those they had taken, but grabbing the monk Gregory instead and holding him to the ground. They beat him many times, and this brought the Aolish to a rage. Crauchen the biter saw their anger, now pushing against the Daona where before they stood peacefully, and he came forward, took hold of the bleeding monk, and thrust his head into the dirt, setting his foot atop the monk's head, snarling. The Aolish seemed ready to throw themselves against the Daona, though they had not arms, so enraged were they at the treatment of their priest. But the good monk Gregory calmed them before they tried their strength, for he had no desire to see them slain for love of him, and knew it better that they save their strength for battles coming on later days, by carrying the laments which the Aolish had dropped. Clear he sang, though his lips were pressed against the earth, and with such power and force he sang that all men heard him and fell still. The Aolish grew calm once more and carried the song by their own voices. Many Daona dropped their arms to listen. Crauchen did not harm him as he sang, but listened entranced. The other kings softened by the lamentation, and when the song ended, Crauchen took him and pushed him into the crowd, having no more to do with him. Ragnaros Eel-eater then brought others together for the deciding of their kingdoms, and he spoke first. "We are victorious, though victory seems stranger now than when I had first envisioned it. Soon the singers will be divided up among us and placed into thralldom. Soon the gold and silver from this place will be dug from the ashes and divided between us. Yet first we must divide the lands of this fair green isle between us, and set aside some lands for Svoren that he might rule. Of these things he shall always have last choosing. But between us three, the first choice of one of these three should belong to each of us. I choose to pick my kingdom first, by right of holding our line, where before our men had only run from our foe. From this action did our fortunes turn, and the isle delivered. I select Halvavar to select his kingdom second, for between the two of you he won a battle and did not flee in disgrace. Thus Crauchen shall pick his kingdom third, and Svoren shall have that part which remains." Quickly after him spoke Halvavar Brightstone. Little did he desire to hear the complaints of Crauchen the biter. "This is just and fair, for you came to this island seeking land for your many people. I came for the promise of battle and found it. Much glory will be given to me for my victory. I think then that it is best that I pick my land second. The most fertile land shall hold your people, and the next shall host my fame. I will choose to pick my choice of the Aolish held here in chains, that I might begin my kingdom on this fair isle, wealthy and renowned. Next in the choosing will be Ragnaros. He will need many thralls for his people. Third will choose Crauchen, for he was defeated in battle and can claim no fame from this conquest. No thralls here shall fall to Svoren, for he has chosen other rewards." Halvavar ended his speaking, and Krauken burst into a snarling rant, outraged that in all the picking he was given third place. He paced back and forth before the other kings, spittle foaming from his maw, his eyes wild. He raged. "I see now. I see. You have come to this land for gold and fame, treasures and fortune to hang in your hall. Think you, great lords, that we have come to this desolate place for your glory, that you may raise a runestone listing your deeds many through the ages? Nay, we have come here to revenge ourselves upon them who slew our fathers, to return the violence they gave our warriors. Go then, take from me the best lands and best thralls. I pick for myself the wrought gold found here, and give to Svoren coward all wrought silver. I leave to Halvavar the unwrought gold, and to Ragnaros the unwrought silver. Take what you can find and flee, for when next we meet, we shall be foes, and we shall war as the clans of Daona back in the old country. Lastly, it will not matter which one of us takes the child of the Aeolish king. I will slay him here, that the bloodline be ended on the same soil where our forebears were cruelly slain." Thus the orders were set, and the Daona kings first picked the lands which would form their kingdoms. To Ragnaros went the lands of the Unlondar, Drochtbalon, and Unlondar Norna. To Halvavar went the lands of Unsalal, Ungol, and Unbalam. To Krauken went the wee Kantara and wee Arden. To Svoren Blackfingers went the Unkoltabar and the wee Agla. Of the few people remaining of the Amach Es, these were unconquered, for no king saw value in fighting so few, and were for a time content to leave them alone. Many of these people were not yet broken, nor had they paid Sherdei tribute, but they were scattered, and would not join together in the face of this evil. The lands of Helm Hylas no king desired, for they had seen the barren land when they first came, and knew not that a small part of the wee Agla survived in that place unseen, the gold of Ioland hidden beneath the peaks of Isle Melach, and though they struggled, they lived. Next the three kings chose thralls from among the wee Agla, and Halvavar had the first choosing. He wanted the strongest men, and selected 200 that they might toil and battle for him. Ragnaros chose next, and he selected all the men who were not weak, that they might till the fields for the many Daona who would soon come to the Green Isle. Among these thralls were the youth Domnall and Gregory, who Ragnaros chose that he would not be harmed by Krauken Biter. Krauken was left with the weakest of the wee Agla, and this enraged him further, for he desired to break the strong Aeolish in his cruelty, but was given bodies that would give him no pleasure in breaking. Next they searched the ashes of the hall for gold and silver, but found nothing, for it was all taken, and no king got that part promised them. Ragnaros and Halvavar were not put off from this, but Krauken was enraged, for everything he searched for seemed to be beyond his reach, ever denied. Bitter became Biter against both Daona and the Aeolish. Krauken had made vow that he would slay the child of the wee Agla, child of the High King, no matter which king claimed him for a thrall. Thus, when all prizes were divided between the kings, Krauken took a spear and walked about demanding to know who was that child. None spoke a word, for the wee Agla would not abandon their own to this foe, not even at the point of death. So Krauken went to the monk Gregory, chosen as a thrall by Ragnaros, for he was the man in highest standing which Krauken knew. He approached the beaten man with spear readied, prepared for violence, but a youth came running and threw himself over the weakened man. Krauken pulled the fiery youth from the monk and threw him to the ground. Harshly he asked the boy if he was the child of the High Teloch. To this the boy answered that he was, and Krauken, sparing no moment, drove his spear through the boy, who died there in well-trampled earth, the only of the Aeolish to die on that dark day. His name was Ediril. The wee Agla witness to this cruelty did not grow enraged, for it was not the time for that, but instead each offered prayer that the boy be admitted into the kingdom of the good God. Craucon saw the Aeolish pray, and thought they wept for the death of their sacred bloodline, and was pleased. He asked the weak monk whether he had slain the child of their king. Gregory answered that he had, and Ioland would forever be in darkness. For the monk knew it would be no sin to tell an untruth to spare lives from a cruel blade. Craucon then gathered his host, and the thralls left to him, and left. To his planned kingdom Craucon went, eager for revenge. The other kings clasped hands closely, vowing that all previous oaths between them were dissolved. Then they swore oaths new, first vowing that if ever dispute arose between them, that they would be settled with a duel of champions, and to the victor the right. Second, vowing that between them there would be friendship, and would come to the other's aid should the other Daona kings wage war against them. The sun in her high seat, these two kings went their ways. Halvavar went north first, following Craucon the Biter and his host, the Ergodan Resturtan, turning west at the place of the Amach Es and skirting the hill of Hala, around the still water of Aglach Salam to the river which shares its name, and there crossing into the lands which would be his possession. The Aeolish there gave him half-hearted battle, but broke easily, and he set himself in the hills of Ailbolam, and from there ruled. Ragnaros took his thralls along the shore, for he was going to the camp of Svoren Blackfingers, that he would learn the lands he was to rule. The Filuver Telm had marched through the night alongside the other hosts, and so set the pace of their going not harshly. The king went before all others, and the thralls between his warriors. The weary monk leaned against the youth Domnall. The beating given him by Craucon the Biter had greatly weakened him. Blood flowed freely from his face. His eyes struggled to remain open. His breath was halting. He was no longer a young man. The marching into thralldom was long, and the good monk came to rely on Domnall more with each step. But both knew that time for him was short. The good monk Gregory was dying. No longer able to stand, the monk fell to the ground, the youth at his side, and he began to whisper to Domnall. The wee Agla would not move when the good monk lay dying, but stood rooted, and this threw the column into disarray as the Daona tried to learn why they stood still, fearing some sudden rebellion. They pushed and shoved the wee Agla, but they would not move. They drew their arms and beat them on their shields, but the wee Agla huddled together, prepared to give their lives for Gregory's final gift to their people. Not wishing to harm the thralls, and deeming that some passing in their center was the cause of this defiance, the Daona began to pull the wee Agla away, as warriors pushed through the crowd. The good monk Gregory whispered to the youth, and advised him thusly. I feel I am passing from this world. That final journey draws near, this long-prepared-for hour, and now at last the worth of my soul shall be revealed to me as I stand before the seat and give account for myself. I hope soon to see those brothers taken from me at Scarmaline, good men all, and to see the man who stood between writhing darkness and fiery light, who saw his duty through to the end. I am eager for this. Therefore mourn me not, child of mighty Aeolish blood, fated to live a while longer, fated to toil until his people are free. My future is certain. Yours you must win in terrible days coming. Bury me in Aeolish fashion, but see that the cross is raised o'er my grave, and proper rites are said when the door closes. I know not how you shall achieve this in such a state, but all my worldly faith I have placed on you. Yet before I leave creation and go before its maker, I have final words for you. You go now to many years of misery. They may seem endless to you, unchanging days of toil and pain, but you must remember that this affliction is but temporary, made ever shorter when you remember who you are and why you remain a thrall. It is to learn the ways of the Daona, to learn how to gain victory over them and discover a means to set free the Eolish. You will work hard, and they will come to trust you. Use this. Remember that they think your true self dead for the work of the Wild One. Use this. Know always who you are, blood of Ioland. Forget not your purpose in this life or your faith. The good God will see you to victory, if only you follow him. Use this. I know why Ioland is reduced to this state, for in this last day of our freedom I have tried to discover why the good God would place us in the hands of such a wretched people as the Daona. In the story which all Eolish know, that of Malach king, Ilulian Finnewan, Ethelwald, and the boon given by the wise men of Isle Malach, the ring of fortune that is named Dainthar Dween. Many do not take that story as history, only a parable which we monks tell of their past. You have seen Ilulian and know her to be real. The power which is in her blood you have felt as the beasts which she commands struck you. That story is the true story of your people. Remember the story, how at the wedding feast of Malach and Neola that prize was given, how it was cursed 3 times by men who knew little of which they spoke. For had they known the power of their words as they spoke them into the gold of that ring, they would have remained silent. First spoke Kelach, who would win many battles with the hunter, that walking wound that poisoned the earth with his every step, and laid a curse against the ring which he did not yet know existed, that all Eolish, born and unborn, could not take that which belonged to Malach, nor could they hold that which rightfully belonged to Malach or his heirs, but see all their desires betrayed, and turn to ash in their mouths, that all Eolish who labored against the will of Malach or his heirs would find themselves ruined against the rock, which is the will of the Eolish masters. Next in that great feast spoke the wise man of Isle Malach, ring maker and dear friend to the line of Mathred. He gave the ring to Malach and named him its master, then laying the second curse upon it, that to Malach and his blood alone would the ring grant good fortune and wealth, all their needs fulfilled. To all other peoples the ring would give great things, such as their thieving hearts desire, but lead them to recklessness and ruin, breaking all who would dare claim the ring of Dainthar Dween, which is Malach's. Finally spoke Malach, great king of a long-dead age, and in his speaking he was gracious to all who had come to see his wedding to Neola fair. For indeed it was a time when the Eolish went before the High Teloch in a spirit of friendship and earnest need of his just judgment. Not so in the time of your mother, when the Eolish were brought beneath her by the power of unconquerable arms, and feared that should they not bring tribute and their cases before the king, that she would bring vengeance upon them. And Malach, first to wear that ring which is forged by a mixture of his blood and gold, the ring named Dainthar Dween, laid third and final curse upon it, spoken thus, that should the ring be taken from the hands of his heirs, and should it be wielded against his will or the will of his heirs, that it should lead them to their death and the death of their works, but the ring would ever return to the hands of his heirs, and only there rest. These 3 are the curses which were laid upon the ring, and though I have not seen for myself that she wore this, I understand now that the calamity which has befallen us is simply these curses unleashed upon a wearer in wrong possession of that gift. The first curse has fallen on your mother, for all that she desired has turned to ash, her great hall, her great kingdom, her great people. All is reduced before the storm which haunted the dreams of Malach. Only her great family, that which was never hers to hold, stands still. Thus the first curse we see to have struck against your mother, and greater proofs there are still that she falsely held the ring of Dame Thardwine. The second curse laid upon the ring, spoken by its maker, was that the ring would give good fortune in excess of what fate deigns to give mortal men. But only to that blood which belongs to Malach would the ring bring fortune and ease want, and not reckless ruin. Think well, boy, of the possessions of your mother, the High Telach, of her many lands and flocks, of her many pounds of silver and gold, both wrought and unwrought, given her by the many Iolish Tella, of the many swords which lay in her halls. 15 years ago she was but a daughter of the house of wee Agla. She had neither lands nor herds, neither silver nor gold, neither respect nor renown, only what remained after her father's ruin. Much she has been given by those who feared her in her high seat, but more still was in her possession at the time of dying, great things which she gained not through ordinary means, but through the magic of the ring. The vastness of her possession was great, but she had much in excess, and the Daona heard of the wealth of this land and came to take it for their own. In the face of this challenge the High Telach set forth with a great host, but which was assembled in haste, unready for battle, and in recklessness Ioland was lost. Thus the second curse has come true. The third curse, spoken by the man whose blood is woven into the ring's gold, whose blood belongs to the Baith, was the most powerful of the three, brought death to the High Telach, for she held the ring and not the daughter of Malach, and now the curse shall move through this land until all your mother was brought is left in rot. Long shall the curse rule us. Many were her works, and I fear that we shall not be freed of it. Only when Ilulian Finoan holds the ring of Dame Thardwine will peace again live in her proper home, and the great Tella of all Iolish will be once more a people in harmony and contentment. For Ilulian is properly the High Telach of Ioland. The ring of Dame Thardwine is rightfully hers, and only when she holds it will we be restored. Your mother, the High Telach, wrongly claimed that title for herself, and has paid the price for this. You must not make the same error in your labors. This then is the task appointed you by the good God and the Baith, to search for the ring of Dame Thardwine, which I am certain was on your mother's hand, and once discovered return the ring to Ilulian, that the storm which her father long feared would be broken, and the sun shall shine once more. The moment long prepared for is come. Weep not for me now, but hold fast today and in all days to follow. Your labor will be weary, but you will see it to its ending, for you have in you a rare strength, a power of will and faith. Guard yourself and never let them learn who you are. Ioland is changed forever. A new age comes. Win it for the Iolish. Goodbye and have faith, for we shall meet once more, though the years between may seem long. The good monk Gregory died, and his soul went before the good God for judgment, and Domnall remained, the body of the monk in his hands. It was at that moment that the Daona warriors reached him, having pushed through the thralls, and were confused why thralls would cease their going at the death of one of their number. Swiftly came the king Ragnaros there, and though the kindest of the kings, he asked harshly to know why the thralls refused to move. The youth answered him, King born from beyond the waves, what I hold are the remains of what was mortal of our master, the good monk Gregory, who came from distant lands across the sea in Ural, and gave to us a treasure beyond all gold taken from the earth, a true knowing of the nature of the good God who rules all. No king was he, but a priest who taught the proper way to live this life. No sword or spear carried he, nor was he ever seen wearing mail or with shield strapped to his arm. Yet he was more powerful than any king, for he gave truth. Such is the Iolish love for this man that his passing is cause for terrible grieving among our people. Go from this place, and ask any Aeolish who the greatest man in all the land is, and they shall each answer you that it was Gregory, this man who lies dead in my arms. It was that beast who came with you that slew this great man, for he was no longer a young man and could not withstand the beating. Those wounds were too much for him to bear on this long journey from the burning hall to the place of our thralldom. All the Aeolish will weep when they hear of this, and we here could not continue our marching as he took his last breath. Punish us if you must, mighty king. We will stand the blows. Such was our love for him. Indeed, we must thank you for selecting him, that he did not fall into the hands of that man who harmed him so. We would ask of you one request, that we might give proper burial to him, in the Aeolish fashion, that his spirit may rest contented, such as he gave to our fathers. Now, king, that is why we have stopped your going. We are prepared to suffer for it. Such was the speech of the youth that the wave-riding king was moved to kindness. He gave order that all the host make rest for 2 hours, and gave the youth right to bury Gregory. The youth said that for fear of violence against the grave it must be dug in the woods, just as the mounds of Ioland's great heroes of ages past. And this the king accepted, so long as 2 of his warriors went with him, that he did not flee. To this the youth accepted, for there was no other way by which to bring rest to the good monk otherwise. Thus he left for the woods with 2 tall Daona warriors with him, clad in mail and bright swords, green their shields, swift they were in body. The youth carried the body of Gregory between these 2 warriors deep into the woods, where light was thin and snaring brambles grow thick over trees as old as the isle. It was there in the heart of the forest that Domhnall wove a bier of wood and began to raise a mound over Gregory. His hands as shovels reached deep into the earth, battling roots ancient, until the mound was nearly over the monk. The warriors drew their blades from their homes, and the youth looked up. So intent was he with the digging of the barrow that he had not watched his captors. The warriors had their blades readied, for at that time sparking light flies began to fly about them, their light thrown in flashes and flickers, and the Daona feared these strange lights, for they had them not in their cold home. A fearful people, as their gods are cruel and demand many offerings. They think all they do not know is a kind of punishment for some hidden offense against their gods. The warriors swung their blades at the lights, but could not stop them. They floated over the breeze. As the warriors tried to conquer the lights and failed, they grew ever more afraid. Domhnall laughed softly at the sight. Then the forest was burned by radiant light, as powerful as the noonday sun, but so near them. The leaves seemed to vanish in the brilliance, and the warriors dropped their arms to shield their eyes, and the youth threw himself to the earth. Vines grew over the warriors' blades, and the earth ate away at the iron, as though 100 years had passed in a moment, and all that remained were the hilts. The power of the light lessened, and the men looked up to see what had laid them so low. Illulian Finnuan stood before them, her every hair catching the sun hidden above the treetops, and throwing that light over the forest. Her white dress trailed long after her, her face one of deep sorrow. As she approached, the Daona trembled in fear, but Domhnall knew who she was, and was not afraid, but awed at the sight. For as he looked upon her, he came to believe the story Gregory had told him so many times. He knew the wind served her. He knew the waters listened to her call. He knew the soil beneath his feet owed her fealty. He knew the grasses named her master. And he saw in her face that she had faced a ravenous darkness and won, losing something very precious to her. He no longer doubted the power which Gregory had told him lived in the isle, real and stronger than any blade, true and perfect. The youth could not tear himself away from the sight. No anger was held in his heart for the wounds given him by her mighty heart. Awe alone filled him, for the true Aeolish are not afraid of her coming. She walked to the mound half raised. Grass grew before her every step, and caught her feet before they touched the earth. She stood a long time gazing upon the peaceful figure of the dead monk, who she had known in his mortal life, and she wept over his form. Each tear turned the soil to a sudden flourish of growing. Flowers burst in great bushes. As she wept, the Daona began to look up from their fear, and when they saw her they were entranced, for their gods were neither fair nor kind, and light flowed from her as the shadow rolled from their dark gods. They held still and made no sound as she mourned. All fear conquered. At last Ioland lifted her hands and spoke whispered words which none of them knew, and the earth beneath them erupted. Strong roots burst from the soil and wove themselves together to form a bed beneath the good monk Gregory, as the bier crafted by the youth was thrown aside by the tendrils. Up rose the mound, and hollow it formed around the dead monk, unsupported as other barrows, for Ioland commanded the soil to stay where she ordered it, perfectly for all time. Gregory was encased entire in a barrow everlasting, green grass growing already. Ioland gave final command, and a stone rose from the top of the barrow, the way the sun rises over the waves, fully formed in the rounded cross which the Aeolish people have set across their land since the time when Gregory showed them the true light. The cross set, Ioland turned to leave, for she had no desire to linger at the tomb of another lost memory. And seeing this, the youth gave a shout, for he desired to speak with her about all which had come to pass. Daughter of the sun, light walker and wound healer, leave not so swift that I may not beg forgiveness for coming upon you in the golden woods and harming the hearts which follow after you. For I thought it would give me fame to take your mighty beasts slain to my people, that they would heap reward upon me. Foolish it seems to me now, only half a year removed from when I struck against that flawless heart. Long will I carry shame of that day, and glad I am that no harm came to your prized beast. I was raised by the man now buried. He taught me my letters, and planted the seed of wisdom in my mind, though that fruit is yet to bloom. A good man was he, kind always. Much do we Aeolish owe to that man, and long shall it be ere we forget the memory of him. Yea, a good man was he, but there was a sadness which lived behind his eyes, and often when he spoke the story which all Aeolish know, they looked to the trees hoping to find some glimpse of you, to discover that you still lived after all the hardships of that darkness. Great was he in his joy when I told him of our meeting, and greater still when you stood at the eaves, hailing us. It was the joy of seeing the sun rise after years of rain. Know, Ioland Finewin, what friends you have in the land of your father. That land is in ruin at this time, ruler of the waters, and we poor Aeolish beg that our high Telach come to succor us as promised by your father, for that is the duty of your blood, ruler of this land true. We know not now what darkness will be unleashed upon this land, brought by these sea riders of bitter lands. But I know there is an ending, for the good monk told me this darkness would not last. We are fated to struggle until that time when the ring of Malach is once more in the keeping of his heirs, and no one claims it for their own. Ioland, give me answer now, that if I spend these dark days searching, and in long suffering discover the ring to which fate is bound, would you take it, and keep it, that the storm long feared would break, and peace again would come to these people? Ioland did turn as he spoke, listening carefully as he named the plan of the monk Gregory, and when he finished, and lay desperately upon the earth begging for succor, she answered, Strange are you, child, who has walked twice into the golden forests which the Baith keep, unknowingly, and found me here in unchanging twilight. Few Aeolish have ever seen this, fewer have ever seen me, and only one returned to the waking world victorious. Shall I now grant you that same right, given to the greatest of heroes? can I? The world is bound by many laws, some which even a Telach cannot break, some which Telachs cannot understand. There are great powers awake in this land, old powers which have come to a peace with each other by law pact. You desire from me my word that I take the ring of Dame Thardwine, when I have refused to take it when asked by him who held the only right to ask such things of me. You think highly of yourself to ask this of me, or perhaps I look too much to my past, a misting land home to all those moments which I so deeply hate, and I so desperately desire to see again. For in the mists are those faces which I long for. I cannot see past those times to the waking day, and the faces before me hold nothing for me, but a lingering resemblance to what I love. This land only sacred to me as the place where those now long buried trod. It was their home and mine, but no longer. I will try to see beyond my little world, but not for long. Very well, the law is set. You ask that I take the ring of Dame Thardwine from you, and this I will do. Yet little do I desire this, and therefore set taboos upon you. Should you break these, then I shall not take the boon from you. The first which I set upon you is this: never can you spill the blood of Ioland. The second, never may you eat the flesh of deer. The third, never may you stand on the shores of Scarmeline. The fourth, never may you walk about by the light of the full moon. The fifth, never may you enter a home without a burning fire in the hearth. The sixth, never may you sit at a table which has no food set upon it. Abide by these taboos, and I shall take from you the ring of Dame Thardwine. She turned and left without further word, and the light she brought left with her. The sparking light flies faded as stars before the dawn, and the leaves on the trees were no longer golden, but were green once more. The youth Domhnall sat quietly before the grave of the good monk Gregory, still held by the trance of her going. The Daona were still also, fearing her sudden return to harm them, but as time passed, their courage returned to them, and they moved to the youth, questioning him. Who was that, who the forest clothe in light, and who orders the earth as she chooses? Is she the god your people worship? So wonderful was she, different from ours who are cruel and demand much blood and pain for their favor. Real is the power which she holds, beautiful is her magic. Teach us of her, please, that we may understand this land. Surprised was Domhnall that the Daona would so earnestly desire to learn of Ilulian, and so he answered truthfully. She is Ilulian Finnewen, daughter of Malach, son of Mathred, son of Math, and the true ruler of Ioland. Her blood comes from the Baith, an ancient power. She is master of the waters, ruler of the grasses, owner of the earth, king of the winds. She is unconquerable, for her magic is more powerful than all except the good God who set creation in motion. She is the power which guards this land, and by pact she will now rid the land of the Daona host and return to us our freedom. No more word would he say, and swift he thought would come a battle against these two warriors from across the brutal sea for his words, but it did not come. Once more was he surprised to see the Daona full of wonder. They spoke to him, first one and then the other, and their words were amazement to the youth. I am not from Daona, but hail instead from this island. Born in that place of walls and without a tella, I was but a boy when I was seized by mad darkness, my mother also. We were thrown into those dragon boats and cowed before the hairy warriors who took us. They rode and we wept, praying we knew not where for salvation. The sun rose and the moon after, and days passed without our marking. So much did we hate the sea and her people. Yet there came a day when the wind rose, and in it was a voice. This voice comforted us, while it seemed to harry our captors, driving them to madness. It told the Aeolish their people would forever mourn their loss, and look to the horizon and think of them. Well we knew that there was no hope in returning to the Green Isle. The Aeolish have no skill in boats, but that voice gave us a strength never before used. Some used that strength to throw themselves from the ships and into the frigid waters to their deaths. Many of the Daona did this also, as the wind raged in their ears. Only the dark captain, who waited at the dragon's head and watched the waves break before him, seemed unchanged, but he was mad before the ship set to the water. Others found the strength to continue. My mother did not jump into the water. She would not abandon me, though the shores of Daona held nothing for her but pain. When she came from the forest, golden light in the dark, I heard her voice. I knew it to be her, the speaker, which called to us over many miles of water to weep for us, who would remember us in our ruin. Aedmund am I named, and I had forgotten the nature of my people before I heard her once more. Fear nothing from me, for I desire only to be in the home of my people once more. Aedmund was tall, swift of limb, and keen of sight. His eyes were brown, his hair red. Fierce was he in battle, but in peace he was calm and watchful. A good man was he. Next, the other warrior spoke. I was not born in this fair isle, but in the cold lands of Daona, where winters are long. I am Aedmund's brother, though our fathers are different. Mine is that cruel warrior who took the Aeolish from their home, Svoren Blackfingers. Our mother was his favorite, but in my birth she nearly passed from pain, and was left simple and mindless. Svoren lost interest in her then, for she could no longer be tormented by him, and he cared not for me. I was the fruit of his crime. We were given as a gift to the mighty chieftain Ragnaros. Together my brother and I served as thralls many years, as our mother sat by the fire and spun cloth. Long we endured this, but when we came in full manhood, stood strong of body and strong of mind. Ragnaros freed us, gave us arms and mail, and placed us in his guard. Well have we fought for him since that time, yet as the years passed our longing grew for the island of our mother. We number among eel-eaters lifeguard, but do not desire to bring suffering to these people. I am named by my brother Ethelred. Ethelred was taller than his brother, lithe of body and lithe of mind. Black was his hair and green were his eyes. In battle he stood stout beside the wall, where in peace he was alone in the feast, always thinking of the coming day. Unlike many Daona, he knew his letters, learning this from a good monk of the good god, whose ship capsized off the Daona coast and was held in thralldom before he displeased King Ragnaros and was slain. The brothers too vowed to guard the youth, for he knew well Ilulian, who they thought the god of Ioland. The three returned to the camp and found the Daona and Aeolish waiting for them, the sun still standing where she stood when they left, fewer than 10 minutes passed since they entered the forest. The Daona thought the barrow must be small to erect in such short time, while the Aeolish thought the youth had not buried the good monk properly. Domnall was made to recount to the thralls all which had passed in the woods, and at the end of his tale the Aeolish were filled with wonder and placed their faith in the youth. Soon the host began its march once more, and the thralls followed after. Slowly did they go along the coast to the sieged city of Tel Drim, and as those days passed, Domnall came close to the brothers. They could not allow his escape, for the king kept careful watch over him, thinking that there was something to the boy, but the brothers ensured the wee Agla were not abused, and that Domnall did not suffer. Each night they would break bread together. Friendly was their talk, and every Daona who passed their fire was asked to join them, that the Daona would come to think of the youth as a friend. After many days of walking, The host of Ragnaros Eel-Eater came to the walls of the Aeolish city at the mouth of Aglach Ulmo, and there went to the camps of Svoren's host to seek out that king. Svoren was in a tent greater than all others, and in a mood most foul, for no power he had would break the city before them, and every passing day brought only death to his camp. Yet when the Filuver Telm came into his camp, he made pretend that victory was soon in his grasp. Well was Ragnaros received, and the two kings sat down together in the grand tent as Eel-Eater told the cruel king of the way which the island was to be ordered, of the division of thralls, and the lack of gold or silver discovered. Little did Svoren seem to care for these things, but with all the island ordered, he spoke, looking at the ring he now wore upon his finger. So little there is to this island, yet so much we desired. Perhaps not all things are the same as the stories told. By all reason the walls before me should be nothing more than tinder, yet the living wood cunningly fashioned has proved stronger than axes and ladders, fire and rams. How much I hate this place! The many kings who have come to these shores have kingdoms to sustain them and many thralls for their prestige, but no gold to treasure. It will be found one day, perhaps. This land will suffer should the fruit be withheld from me. Go, king, settle your lands, enjoy them, call for your many kin across the water. These people had an over-king, and they shall expect one of us to take that place. Soon our wars shall bleed this wretched land dry. The Filuver Telm left Svoren's camp, going to those lands which were given to King Ragnaros, and thus night fell over Ioland. End. Book 14. The Ring of Dane Thardwine was written and performed by Michael Frutig. If you have enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting the project on Patreon. Supporters get text files of each chapter, as well as access to Q&A posts, other writing projects, such as flash fiction and chapters of other works. Go to patreon.com/michaelfrutig for more. patreon.com/MICHAELFRUTIG. Thank you.